And here we go. We are starting to learn much more about the direction of the Buffalo Bills heading into the 2026 NFL Draft as the Combine rages on, and the Bills have hosted at least 6 players in for formal meetings at the time of recording this video. You're watching the Bills Breakdown by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Tyler Smith, and let's get into the latest Bills draft news. Before we do, guys, we're very, very close to our next milestone of 14,000 subscribers. Thank you guys all for so much support that we've gotten during the Combine week. Off-season content is only going to ramp up more and more with free agency, trades, and the draft looming. So hit that subscribe button and turn your notifications on so you never miss a moment surrounding your Buffalo Bills. All right, so we know at least 6 players have met with the Bills so far. It's kind of difficult to pinpoint exactly who is meeting with who formally. You know, some of these guys, when they're at the podium, don't exactly speak the clearest with all this stuff, and some of the audio that you get isn't the best, and there isn't a lot of details surrounding a lot of these meetings, especially when they explain them. There isn't a lot going on. They usually just list the teams that they ended up meeting with. Only a couple of times do you get actual in-depth responses about these meetings. So we only know so much about these meetings with the Bills, but we do know who has been confirmed so far, and starting with an All-American in Kayden McDonald, first-team All-American defensive tackle out of the Ohio State University. I think he's an excellent player, guys. And look, I understand that the defensive tackle maybe isn't the biggest round one need, because what I think with the round one selection for the Bills, it needs to be an instant contributor. It needs to be a person who helps take this Bills team over the top, a true needle mover. And I do believe that Kayden McDonald can be that player, but it isn't necessarily in the biggest position group of need. Now, keep in mind, when we talk about these meetings, the only players that formally met with the Buffalo Bills at the Combine, or even like in the pre-draft process, I believe, in 2025, were Landon Jackson and Dorian Strong. So, yes, we want to take more than a grain of salt with these meetings, but they don't end up always becoming who gets selected by Buffalo when the draft comes around. And again, not much is known about this meeting. We only saw him list off the list of teams that he met with, but this guy's a player, man. Like, basically one of the captains of that Ohio State defense. You know, you have Sonny Styles out there, but along that defensive line, Kayden McDonald is the leader, and he ended up being a player who just made more plays at the end of the day than maybe a guy like Arvell Reese, who's being mocked into the top 5 of the NFL draft this year. 65 tackles. For an interior defensive lineman, that is a lot. The guy just makes plays at the end of the day. 9 TFLs, which is even a crazier number for a guy who he stuffs the run like nobody else in the Big Ten. Also poured in 3 sacks in 2025 as well, 10 pressures. He does it all as a defensive tackle. I'm honestly surprised that he's not getting more buzz into the top half of the first round here. Can bat balls at the line of scrimmage too, had a PBU last season. And this is a guy who really just took a massive step up from his college career, from freshman to sophomore to junior year. And there's a reason that he's coming out of the draft and foregoing the rest of his NCAA eligibility, because the guy can just flat out play, and he's ready to take it to the next level. As far as the scouting report goes, if you guys want a little bit more of an intricate, in-depth outlook as far as what you're getting with Kayden McDonald, jolts blockers, knock back power. He moves guys off of their spot. He's just a massive body. Excellent quick run game recognition. That's what he does super well. That's why he has so many of those tackles behind the line of scrimmage. Very good change of direction quickness too. For a big guy like he is, he's pretty quick. He has good quickness on the interior of that defensive line. He can shoot really any gap there. And like it says there, accurate shed choices to defend both gaps. He just has a high IQ. He reads runs really well, and he plays with slow power, tougher to quickly shed. So he's gonna be more of a slow roller there, but again, for that being the only knock on his game at this point, like I don't see too much wrong with Kayden McDonald. Lance Zierlein over at NFL.com, his pro comparison for Kayden McDonald here is DJ Reader. Now, I think it's more of a play style thing than a ceiling thing here. I mean, we're talking about a guy who was a first-team All-American in 2025 on one of the best teams in all of college football, the favorite to repeat as national champions. He was a part of that national championship team in 2025, the 2024 season. But as far as the pro style, it's DJ Reader. We're thinking Pro Bowl and long-term starter here for Kayden McDonald. Another player who the Bills met with during the Combine, Dillon Thieneman. This guy, you want to talk about Kayden McDonald can flat out play? There are like no holes in Dillon Thieneman's game, and it's a guy who's rapidly rising up draft boards. The Bills do need to address safety pretty badly. They need a guy who can start alongside Cole Bishop, a guy who can rely upon being in there for 17 games, because not only did you have poor safety play in 2025 with the Bills, but it was also a room that was ravaged by injury. So, you just need a guy who's going to be consistently in there and making plays game in and game out. And I think Thieneman is going to be that guy. I think he's going to be a 10, 12-year starter at the NFL level, maybe make a couple of Pro Bowls and All-Pro teams. He just does it that well. And he's not your typical exciting white. This guy has legit 4.4, 4.3 speed. That's what he was trying to run at the combine here. And like I said, he's rapidly rising up draft boards for those reasons. Seems like he's interviewing very well. He's got an elite athletic profile, and he just creates big plays on the defensive side of the ball here. He talked about the meeting with the Bills at the combine.
It was good. I mean, we were just talking through the film, talking through some of the coverages that we ran at Oregon, and then just diagnosing, seeing how I process things and what my eye progression and footwork and all that stuff.
Thieneman's a player who can not only cover over the top, but can also be a stickler in the run game. He literally does everything, and for that reason, and all the big athletic profile reasons as well, he might go well before pick 26. I mean, I think the Vikings want to get a new Harrison Smith up there in Minnesota, and that could be the pick for them at 18. Buffalo could be SOL by the time they're on the clock at 26. Dillon Thieneman could well be off of the board because just of the stuff he does, man. Like 96 tackles, 4 TFLs, a sack, 7 PBUs, 2 picks. Like he was just all over the football field. And I was talking to our Oregon Football Report host here, Will Ortner, and he just said Dillon Thieneman was the standout player of this Oregon Ducks defense, and for good reason, man. And it was unbelievable in coverage as well in 2025. Fostered a 66.2 quarterback rating. A 66 passer rating at the college level where everything is spread out and easier. That's insane, to be quite honest with you guys. Only 140 yards allowed in coverage over a 15-game sample size. Did allow 2 touchdowns, but at the end of the day, you were going to as a defensive back. And this is a guy who transferred from Purdue to Oregon here and took his game to the next level. Again, like Purdue's not going to be a team that's ever in the conversation in college football, to be quite frank, but he replicates the same level of production, just going from a low-level Big Ten school to like one of the top programs in the country in Oregon, and he's just a really, really good football player, guys. There's really not much more to say about him. I'll give you a scouting report. Like, he's got the size and athleticism profile to play all 3 safety spots. He can play in the nickel. He can play the free safety, strong safety, fits everywhere on the defense. A chess piece that I think Jim Leonhard would absolutely flourish with. High coverage IQ with strong feet for spacing and route structure. Like, he just knows how to keep the same level of the right level of distance away from receivers. Persistent pursuit of the football, always going to give you 110% on every play. Reads the run well and races downhill to squeeze workspace. So he doesn't really allow running backs to generate much lateral movement to find the right holes. And man coverage is really where he isn't the best in coverage. But again, like how often are you really running safeties, your 2 high guys as man coverage players? It's not too frequent, so I don't mind that knock on Dillon Thieneman. Zerline of NFL.com pro-comped him to Javon Holland, a guy who I think is a little bit worse of a tackler and run defending safety than Dillon Thieneman is. I don't mind the comp, but as far as being a over-the-top, last line of defense coverage guy, Javon Holland is a pretty good comp for Dillon Thieneman, a ball hawk. Pick 1 to draft. Out of the players the Bills have met with so far that could be mocked in the first round, pick 1. Kayden McDonald, type KM. Dillon Thieneman, drop a DT down below in the comments section. I want to know where you guys are heads at, because this question is basically, what do you want more? To fortify that D-line more, or to get a true over-the-top, maybe 10-year, 12-year starter at safety? Next up, Jalon Kilgore, defensive back over at South Carolina. Played corner, but is he going to play corner at the next level? I'm not so sure. Another guy who, for Jim Leonhard, could just be a chess piece you can move around everywhere. This is a day 2 name, though. We only saw meetings, really, for first-round guys being Kayden McDonald and Dillon Thieneman. As far as Thursday goes, we'll see more names, obviously, visit with Buffalo as more position groups get going on Friday. But Kilgore is a guy who I didn't really know much about heading into the combine and pre-draft process here, but he was pretty solid for South Carolina, especially in a pass-heavy SEC, 12 PBUs, 2 picks, 2 fumble recoveries. Like, the guy can play, and look, he was pretty sticky in coverage, to be honest with you guys. 52% completion, 68 QB rating. He made plays, did allow a couple of touchdowns, but again, for a guy who's, not doesn't possess elite cornerback speed, then I'm not too mad at these numbers whatsoever. And look, the Bills need to improve this secondary. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Remember, there's been talk about Taron Johnson moving to safety, and his play has kind of dipped a little bit. Second boundary corner outside of Max Harrison and Christian Benford. If you're thinking about Trey White having the same level of season as he had in 2025, I wouldn't bank on that. So you're going to need more depth there in the secondary, no doubt. Now, as far as Kilgore goes, in terms of his scouting report, rangy zone guy. Like he can move in a lot of different spots and put himself in a lot of different zones. Good vision, good anticipation on throws. He can stall tight ends and big slot receivers. It's kind of what he was asked to do at the college level. So if you're thinking about a guy to replace Taron Johnson there in the nickel, then yeah, we could go with Kilgore. And plenty of stopping power as a run defender. He's a good sound tackler. Like in the few highlights that I saw, he wraps up and really doesn't let guys move once he makes the contact. When he's away from the play though, that's when he can kind of turn the motor down a little bit and he's not as involved. And the next level, things could flip the field at a moment's notice, and he can be basically on his heels and out of the play completely. Good, but then the other knock on him is good play speed for a safety. Cornerback, maybe not so much. Maybe need a little more, just verticality than he has in his game. Chat Sports Comp. I decided to ask around the room a little bit, kind of get a feel. And this is on the higher end for sure with Kilgore. But Brian Branch, a versatile guy who can play both safety and nickel corner, flies around, good tackler. You feel him when you hit. I think it's a pretty good comp for Kilgore here. We do have 3 more visits to talk about on today's show. Before we do, guys, it's getting closer to the St. Patty's Day holiday, and you want to get this shirt, the Buffalo Drinking Team shirt, the first piece of merch here from the Bills Breakdown before the holiday comes around. March 4th is the last day that you'll be able to get these Buffalo Drinking Team shirts before the St. Patty's Day holiday. They're at this link below, chatsports.com/BillsDrink. If you don't want to get it for the holiday, you just like the design, we have it in black as well. All sizes available at this link, chatsports.com/BillsDrink. It's in the comment section and description of today's video. All right, so next up, we got Brandon Cleveland, defensive tackle out of NC State. So the Bills, as far as the visits that they're having, because you can only have a finite number at the Combine, they are prioritizing defensive tackle a decent bit here. It seems like they believe it needs more depth at that position, and I can't sit here and say that that's a bad move. Ed Oliver missed basically the entire season and ended up coming back in the playoffs and getting hurt again. And then TJ Sanders had a stint on IR. Larry Ogunjobi suspended for the first 6 games. He was awful once he got through, and he's not going to be back in 2026. Jordan Phillips probably isn't going to be back in 2026. Vidaria Mathis, they just re-signed. Hopefully he could be a solid depth piece there. But outside of Daquan Jones is going to be back there next season. Dwayne Carter tore his Achilles before the season started. So they really do believe more depth is needed at this defensive tackle spot. I would anticipate them addressing it at some point. Maybe not in round 1, but rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, they're going to attack that position, no doubt about it. And if they go with a guy like Brandon Cleveland, I don't mind it at all. A guy who can get to the quarterback, but also a just big body stuffing the run as well. 7 TFLs in 13 games last year. Like, we had Kayden McDonald with 9. Like, 7's still pretty impressive for an interior defensive lineman as well. 3 QB hits, got to the quarterback and sacked him twice. Like, pretty solid player here if you look at Brandon Cleveland's full profile. He burrows low and explodes into double teams. Like, he can take on two players, no doubt about it. Presses his block, reads the runner, quickly sheds. Like, he's a run defending defensive tackle, but you saw he's able to get to the quarterback as well. You rarely see him knocked to the ground. Like, he's just a massive human being, so it's going to be tough to really get him off of his spot. The other thing that kind of comes along with that is you're not going to be the quickest player on the football field. So below average first step quickness, and he's gathered in longer armed guards. Like, he doesn't have the biggest arm length out there at the defensive tackle spot. It's a reason for him kind of being down the line in terms of where he's mocked around. So longer armed guards can kind of have their way with him. I don't think it's going to be too big of a deal at the next level. You're putting this guy in the middle of the football field to go fill the gaps. This next meeting that the Bills had is a very interesting one. Robert Spears-Jennings of the Oklahoma Sooners. Now, why is that interesting? Well, he actually has a relationship with one of the brand new Bills assistant coaches. New Bills cornerback coach Jay Valai, he was the co-defensive coordinator at Oklahoma last season. Spears-Jennings went and spoke about Jay Valai at the Combine as well, which is really cool. And so the fact that he already has familiarity with this coaching staff is definitely going to play in his favor, and he's a really, really fun player to watch at that safety spot, man. 59 tackles in 2025, only 1 TFL, so like not necessarily a guy who's always getting sent on blitzes and what have you, but he can fit in a lot of different spots on the defense. Had a forced fumble, two pass breakups, and an interception. Like, he really is more like a box safety than, necessarily an over-the-top coverage guy. So that's where he would kind of slot in for Buffalo here. He erases space downhill in terms of his scouting report. He fills the front like a linebacker, so again, going to be playing closer to the line of scrimmage there. He crashes weight into targets to immediately stop runs. So even though he doesn't have a lot of TFLs there, like, it's not like there many guys in the Big 12 or in the SEC are getting, or really at anybody at the college level, are generating a ton of TFLs on run plays. Offensive lines are always getting a push. I feel like every running back gets at least 3 yards a touch. It's crazy. So I wouldn't take the raw stats into account too much, because this guy does fill gaps at the line of scrimmage. He has striking power to intimidate receivers over the middle as well. That's where he's really going to cover the field. Not really a boundary guy whatsoever, because he doesn't have that top-level speed. And he needs to do a better job of playing off blocks. He needs to do a little bit better job once he gets engaged with a blocker to shed it. And then he rushes in hot and runs past the entry points to tackle sometimes. Just overcommits a little bit, and that can happen with a guy. A little bit more coaching, a little bit more refining in his game could absolutely make him a player at the next level. Jaishawn Barham, Michigan. Man, this guy is a very polarizing prospect as well. Mock drafts have his projections all over the place. I've seen one guy have him mocked to the Dallas Cowboys at pick 29. That's insane, to be quite honest with you guys. And in terms of the player that he is, nobody really knows exactly where he is going to be lined up. He's more of a scheme fit, depending on where he's at the next level. So for the new Bills scheme that they're going to be running, maybe multiple fronts, obviously, but mostly going to be based in a 3-4, he would play the outside linebacker spot for Buffalo here. Now, in terms of what he did at Michigan last year, I mean, I know they weren't the most impressive team at the college level, but 4 sacks, you can't argue with that, especially when he was a guy who was playing off ball a little bit as well. 3 PBUs, like, he was playing a bit in coverage and had some bats at the line of scrimmage. 10 TFLs, like, he just gets behind the line of scrimmage, like, and you want that on your football team every single time. He's another guy who transferred Big Ten to Big Ten here and kept up the production from what he had at Maryland. Like, just a really damn good football player. And some spots have him in round 5, some places round 4, round 6 is the latest that I saw on him, but then even some day 2 selections as well. Like, he's a guy who is going to make plays for you at the next level. Now, he delivers knockback pop. Big-time hits. And I know it's not a guy who's coming incredibly downhill, but in the off-ball opportunities that I saw, he laid the boom. Plays through or around blocks without losing his positioning, like, always stays square, has a good center of gravity there. Elite bend and reactive agility, like, just gets to the quarterback and can get to him quickly. Takes chances that lead to loss of contain. Again, like, he sometimes just overcommits inside, so it's going to hurt him from time to time. And then he plays kind of a little bit out of control from time to time. It can lead to missteps, can lead to missed tackles. You get coached up at the next level in the NFL, that stuff can be ironed out. Comment down below. Name a player that you want the Bills to draft. It could be anybody. It could be anybody from this list of guys that they've had visits with already. It could be anybody that you think the Bills should draft in April. Let me know who that is down below, as that will do it for today's show. Give me a follow over on Twitter at Tyler J. Smith. 2 H's because the name's common, but I am not. And make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. YouTube.com/Bills News for the latest and greatest on your Buffalo Bills all offseason long. See you guys next time. And as always, let's go, Buffalo.